Hey guys, and welcome to today's idiot video. Now today's video comes from the limited mind of M. Benz. M. Benz is a flat earth idiot that believes that the daily observations of the sun prove that it is small and local and could not possibly be large and far away, when the exact opposite is actually true. Now M. Benz does a lot of repeating in this video, so I will be cutting out small portions of the original video in the interest of my viewers. I wouldn't want you guys dying of boredom the way I almost did. So let's begin.
I've been getting a lot of comments or questions, comments, concerns, whatever, from global believers who say they cannot believe in the flat earth because of ABC reasons. I'm getting a lot of this.
Yeah, the idea that the earth is flat is tantamount to the idea that Hogwarts Academy truly exists. People who believe in the heliocentric model, at least the people who are informed on what the model truly represents, are going to need you to provide explanations for more than just A, B, and C reasons. The flat earth models are going to need explanations for A, B, and C reasons, alpha to omega reasons, and 1 to 1 million reasons. And even that wouldn't cover all the holes in their flawed models. The fact that flat earthers don't even have a working model that conforms to observational reality is the only explanation that flat earthers owe anyone, including themselves. Flat earthers, more fittingly described as globe deniers, are fucking idiots.
And so I think I'm gonna start up this new series. It's gonna be part one. Okay, I don't know how many parts I'm gonna do, we'll see. It's gonna be part one of explaining ridiculously basic flat earth facts.
Flat earth facts. Let's see if we can name them all. Fact number 1. Not backed by any field of science, nor acknowledged by any institution of education. Fact number 2. Has never been photographed by anyone in the history of man, but dates back over 6,000 years in the past. Fact 3. Does not exist except in the mind of the mentally disabled flat earth idiots.
Now, I know what you guys are gonna say. We've heard it a million times. Blah, 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 blah. I get it. But it can't be that we've heard it a million times, because I'm still getting these same comments of people saying, why can't I see Mount Everest from my house? Why can't I see England from my house? Why can't I see whatever, the Great Wall of China? I get all kinds of ridiculous comments that you would think are pretty basic by now, that have already been answered in many other videos.
Well, just because you give a bullshit answer that makes sense with your limited level of intelligence does not mean that critical thinkers are going to accept it, especially when the questions being asked of you are legitimate questions. Seeing Eastern Europe from Western North America is an exaggerated example of what people are actually trying to say, which is, why can't we see something a few hundred miles away if there are no obstructions in your line of sight? I recently read an article from Forbes magazine explaining why you can't see Kauai Kini from the peak of Mauna Kea. If the earth were flat, then there would be nothing stopping you from seeing one peak from the other. However, if the earth were spherical in nature, then anything beyond the visual horizon will no longer be able to be seen by any person, even if they pulled out the strongest optical telescope known to man. This is because the earth's surface is curved, and M. Benz is an idiot.
I keep getting these same comments over and over and over and over and over from you heliocentric enthusiasts.
Well, I'd rather be a heliocentric enthusiast than a fucking flat earth idiot.
So it's part one of me answer some ridiculously easy, basic flat earth questions, concerns versus the globe earth thing. So today we're gonna talk about sunlight.
Ridiculously easy questions about sunlight, huh? I bet your answers are as ridiculously stupid as well, especially since flat earthers think the sun is only 30 miles wide and 3,000 miles in the atmosphere. Oh yeah, I guess I forgot about the flat earth idiots that think the sun is actually in the clouds. Flat earthers can't even get the position of their most prominent celestial body correct in their fairy tale models, and yet they still refuse to accept the heliocentric model's explanation, which gives us accurate prediction power and leaves us with more answers than questions.
And sunlight. There seems to be a big debate on why people cannot believe that the earth is flat is because of sunlight and time zones.
I believe the typical argument for time zones being a problem for flat Earth comes from earlier models of the flat Earth, which have the sun going under the Earth, which would result in the entire Earth going dark at the same time. This can be seen in the ancient Egyptians' depictions of the flat Earth model. In that model, the sun lit the Earth for 12 hours and nighttime was caused by the sun going under the Earth to illuminate the underworld for 12 hours. Most modern flat Earth idiots don't believe the sun disappears under the Earth, but instead they believe that the sun makes an impossible circular track that seems to go between the two tropics and crosses the equator on the equinox twice a year. Now, we won't be covering all the discrepancies between the flat Earth sun and observational reality in this video. We will, however, cover a few during this video and a few in his next video, which is part 1.5.
You gotta clear your mind. If you're heliocentric enthusiast, clear your mind. Stop believing in right now that the Earth is this big, giant ball of fire.
So I know you meant to say that the sun was a giant ball of fire, but that is just as wrong as saying that the Earth was a giant ball of fire, because the sun is not a ball of fire. It's a spherical collection of gas that is trying to collapse on itself due to its own gravitational attraction of its particles. The pressure from this collapse causes the core of the gas ball to undergo nuclear fusion, which then creates a pressure pushing outwards. These two pressures will balance out until the end of the star's life. And if you want me to stop believing the sun is a large ball of nuclear fusing gas, then you are going to have to provide a more viable and verifiable option.
Okay, stop believing that the Earth is, forgot how many times bigger than the Earth. You gotta just let that notion go.
According to the heliocentric model, the sun is approximately 109 times wider than the Earth, 333,000 times heavier than the Earth, and has 1.3 million times the volume. And again, for me to abandon the scientific consensus, you must first provide me a better explanation of what the sun is, where it is actually located, and how does it produce the energy that we receive.
That's the first key into understanding how sunlight works on our flat plane, is let go of the notion that the sun is infinitely times bigger than the Earth, and it's a big giant ball of fire out there in outer space, and we revolve around it.
So this is the third consecutive time that you have said that we must let go of everything we know in order to understand why idiots think the Earth is flat. Even if I were to disregard everything I've ever learned in school, two things that I can never let go of is my critical thinking and logical reasoning. I don't need to know how big the sun is to know that its position in the sky debunks the flat Earth. The flat Earth model has the ability to make only one accurate prediction based on their sun's position, which is the subsolar point on Earth, or the point on Earth directly underneath the sun. If one were to make predictions based on both models and check those predictions against observable reality, they would be left with only one viable option. The sun is not small and local, and flat earthers are fucking idiots for thinking it is.
That is the first thing you need to understand the next part I'm going to say. So the first thing you need to do right now is just drop that notion. Even if it's hard for you to get past your cognitive dissonance, just for a minute, just go with me, okay? Just follow me here.
So again, you need to tell us to forget everything we learned to prepare us to understand the bullshit you're about to say. And I'm not sure why flat earthers believe heliocentrists have inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, at least when it comes to the heliocentric model, which is the definition of cognitive dissonance. Now, I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not going to go too much into cognitive dissonance, but I would like to point out how many flat earthers refuse to believe that space and satellites exist, but then turn around and rely on GPS for accurate navigation. In my opinion, it's the flat earthers who are the ones suffering from cognitive dissonance, but flat earthers are fucking idiots.
Now let's imagine that the sun was 3,000 miles in the sky instead of 93,000 miles away. It was 3,000 miles in the sky, and it was small and localized.
Oh, we don't believe the sun is 93,000 miles away. We believe it to be 93 million miles away, you idiot. The sun being 93,000 miles away would present just as many problems with daily observations as a sun that is only 3,000 miles away, especially since it would be within the orbit of the moon and we would never get a solar eclipse. This is where I begin to have a problem with the flat earth model. In order for you to be a true flat earther, you would have to disregard everything you know to be true and accept things you know to be impossible.
and it projected small and localized beams over a section of the flat plane that it was over.
And by what mechanism does the sun project beams of light in only certain localized portions of the Earth? In other words, why does the sun project more light downwards than it does laterally? Now, I've heard every argument under the sun describing the supernatural abilities of the flat Earth sun. And with all the exceptions and special pleading that comes with the flat Earth sun, it has led me to believe that it is flat earthers who are the true sun worshippers.
Now, let's not forget, the flat plane is very large. It's not like I cannot see, I'm in California, I cannot see New York from here. Like, that's just, you know what I mean? That's just us in North America. It's just United States of America. I cannot see that far. So for me, seeing all the way from here to whatever, Japan or China, is ridiculous. The sun isn't that bright. Small and localized. So it projects a beam over, so say this is, just hear me out, say this is California, okay? Let's just pretend this is California.
Flat earthers and their need for pretending. They pretend the earth is flat. They pretend the sun is small and local. They pretend due east and west are circles while due north and south are straight lines. Why don't you end the pretending and model out your assertions so that you can make an actual case for your failed belief system? Maybe it's due to the fact that you can't model out a small and local sun and still keep it consistent with observational reality. M. Benz, enough of your pretending. It's time to realize that the earth is not flat and you are a fucking idiot.
This is Japan. You're in Japan. You say, well, the sun, I should be able to see the sun all the way over here if it's here, right?
Well, if the earth is flat, then there should never be a time when you can't see the sun, as there would never be a time when the sun drops below the earth. I'm not going to do the math explaining why this is a problem because Cool Hard Logic has already done this to perfection. I highly suggest watching his video series, Testing Flat Tards, which points out the impossibilities of the flat earth model. A link to the series will be provided in the description.
Well, you can't, because if it's small and localized, it's not going to light up all the way. It's not going to stretch across the whole flat plane if it's small and localized.
And why wouldn't it? Light reduces in intensity by 1 over the square of the distance to the light source, meaning that if you get twice the distance from a light source, the intensity of the light will only be 1/4 of its strength. So while a small local sun may not illuminate the entire Earth, as shown in the picture of the light bulb, it will still be able to be seen as a dim object in the sky by every observer on the other side of the flat Earth. Even if it was too dim to be detected by the human eye, infrared instrumentation would easily be able to pick up the heat signature and its position in the sky. These observations should be easy to perform by any flat earther interested in strengthening their case. However, no such measurements have ever been taken because the sun is not small and local, the earth is not flat, and flat earthers are fucking idiots.
And then people go, wow, that doesn't make sense. So, have you ever seen a candle? Have you ever seen a light? Have you ever seen a flashlight? You turn on a flashlight in a dark room, it doesn't, if you're in a large, let's say you're in a large dark warehouse, turn on one flashlight, it doesn't automatically bright up the whole warehouse. From that flashlight, it does not. Am I correct?
Yeah, okay. A small flashlight would not light up an entire large dark warehouse. However, an observer standing on the other side of the warehouse would still be able to see the light coming from the flashlight. This is why we tell you that the sun should never set on a flat earth. And while it might not illuminate your local area of Earth, it should always be visible as at least a point of light in the sky.
So, you gotta think of it kind of like that. Small and localized light that travels around the flat plane. Now we can get into the debate of how it travels, what path it takes. We're not talking about that right now.
Of course you don't want to talk about that right now. The mechanism by which your model works and the physical properties of the flat earth are not important to you because the flat earth have yet to come up with an explanation that is consistent with observation. The only thing flat earthers can agree with is to disagree with the scientific consensus without a scientific explanation as to why. Flat earthers are fucking idiots.
The sun does not set and rise with the turning of the earth like they tell you. So we're gonna have to let that notion go for the next part that I'm about to say.
I love how M. Benz asserts that the sun doesn't set and rise, and that we are going to have to ignore reality to understand how his fantasy world works. So I'll put away all preconceived notions that I have about the solar system, and I'll just use critical thinking and common sense to determine whether what you're about to say is intelligent or idiotic.
The sun moves across your flat plane, and it drifts away from your perspective. And that's what creates the rising and setting effect.
Well, that didn't take long. Just like every other flat earther, you're a fucking idiot because you don't understand perspective. While perspective will cause the sun to appear to drop in elevation as it moves further from an observer and appear to rise as it moves towards the observer, at no time does perspective dictate that the sun should appear to drop below the horizon. There are a few other verifiably incorrect observations that can be made by every observer on Earth using perspective. First, due to perspective, the sun should change in angular size throughout the day, getting smaller as it drifts away from the observer and increasing in size as it moves towards the observer, being largest at solar noon and smallest at solar midnight. There have yet to be any evidence that back this anticipated observation. And secondly, due to perspective, the angular speed of the sun should change throughout the day as well, getting faster and faster as it approaches an observer and slower as it recedes from the observer. The problem I see here is that any person can track the sun to see that it always moves throughout our celestial sphere at 15 degrees per hour. Like I said before, you should really check out Cool Hard Logic's channel if you haven't already. He does an amazing job detailing what exactly the flat earth model predicts and why exactly you have to be a fucking idiot to be a flat earther.
It drifts away from your perspective, and once it's all the way gone from your perspective, it creates new time zones. So when the sun goes from here to all the way over here, now you're night, they're day. Different time zones.
M. Benz, you're a fucking idiot. Do you even know what you were implying here? If the sun needs to leave your perspective to create a new time zone, then on the equinoxes there would only be 2 time zones, as the sun would be visible to you for exactly 12 hours a day. The only time it would not be visible to you is after sunset and before sunrise. I refuse to stop calling flat earthers fucking idiots until they agree to stop saying stupid shit like this.
So, I don't know. To me, it's pretty basic. It's pretty simple. It's easy for me to understand because my mind was already open and I was willing to let go of the textbook NASA garbage that I learned in school.
Well, it's quite obvious to me that you haven't retained any of your education from when you were schooled, unless you dropped out of school in the 3rd grade. So far, you haven't presented anything that can't be explained with the most basic understanding of the fundamental sciences combined with just a little bit of critical thinking and logical deduction.
For you out there, which level of education you possess? Doesn't matter.
Yes, it fucking matters, especially if the intention is to prove either the Earth is flat or non-spherical in nature. Everything you've said so far has been blind assertions without evidence to back them, complete ignorance or stupidity of optics and light propagation, a lack of understanding as to what a time zone is, and 100% proof that you are a fucking idiot.
Because I've let go a lot of that garbage textbook learning to open my mind to new ideas and new ways of thinking.
So you've essentially regressed 6,000 years in human intelligence and advancements. I wouldn't be bragging about that.
And now that's what I'm trying to do with you guys and say, hey, just for a minute, maybe you don't have to let it all go, but just for a minute, start to understand, start to think differently.
Oh, I get it. So let go of any knowledge that violates the flat earth model and retain any knowledge that allows for its possibility. Why don't we just let all of our knowledge go and just use some basic observations to model out the shape of the planet we live on? Without using a single bit of science, we can logically deduce that living on a flat plane is an impossibility, and understand that the planet we live on needs 2 points of rotational axis, known on our model as the North and South Pole. Until we find sharp bends on the Earth's surface suggesting that the 3-dimensional object we live on is anything but spherical, we must conclude that the Earth is a sphere and flat earthers are fucking idiots.
Look at the sun, or in our day sky. Look at the sun, okay? It doesn't look like it's 93 million miles away.
Well, if you deny the size of the sun as being really fucking huge, then yes, it couldn't possibly be that far away. But there is one observation that anyone can make every day of the year, which is the observation of the sunrise and sunset. The only way for the sun to rise and set at the same position for every observer on Earth means that the sun is extremely large, at least larger than the Earth. Combining that knowledge with the measurable angular size of the sun, we can also logically deduce that the sun must be far away. These simple observations simply cannot be reproduced using any flat Earth model. Therefore, the flat Earth is a fairy tale, and flat earthers are idiots.
If all that makes sense on our flat Earth, why do you guys argue it so hard to say it makes sense for the ball Earth?
Because for it to make sense on your flat Earth, you have to disregard everything that proves that the flat Earth is impossible. And there has yet to be a single piece of flat Earth evidence that also proves that the Earth cannot be a globe.
Now, I guess if you believe in things that we can't prove, you've never been to the sun. You've never been in space. You've never been 93 million miles away. You just read it in a book somewhere, right? And you believe it.
And you've never seen a picture of the flat Earth, but you still believe that the Earth is flat. The hypocrisy from the flat Earth community is evidence of their special pleading and blatant cognitive dissonance, and is one of the main reasons that I believe flat Earthers are fucking idiots.
When you think about it like that, it makes perfect sense. That explains it. So, like I said, it's a new thing I'm trying. This is part 1. I'm gonna answer another question in part 2. That video to come soon.
M. Benz, you can count on me destroying your scientific misconceptions and your idiotic assertions with every video you put out. I love when flat earthers put their limited understanding of science and their lack of critical thinking on display for everyone else to laugh at, because all flat earthers are fucking idiots. Now, I'd like to take the time out to thank M. Benz and his small, local flashlight sun for shining some sunshine on his stupidity. Because M. Benz, you are a fucking idiot. I'm Father Skeptic, and I'm out.